Hey everybody, welcome to episode 3 of Driven to Change. I'm here with Mitch Johnson, my former high school basketball coach. Mitch Johnson graduated from UC. He's a three-time Dean's List honoree from 2017 to 2021. He served as the head coach for Junior Varsity, Freshman, and was an assistant varsity at Turpin High School. He went to the College of Charleston as a GA in 2021 and was the director of basketball operations there. Spent 3 years at Charleston and now is newly hired at the University of Louisville. So congrats, Mitch.
I appreciate
Um,
it.
how you doing today?
I'm great, man, and I appreciate you throwing me a little bit of an academic lean
Yeah,
there. Good
yep.
to deep to find those honor rolls. I don't know if the University of Cincinnati can corroborate, but maybe once or twice I got a couple good grades. But I appreciate you digging deep in the archives and finding that. That's
Of
funny.
course, of course. So I'm going to start off with a new question I want to ask everybody who comes on in the future. When's the last time you really laughed, like got a belly laugh out of you?
Wow. Um, I would say probably a week ago. Me and my buddy Braden went to a coffee shop in Louisville, and honestly, it was one of those days where you've just been like working and working and working, and you hit a point of fatigue that everything's funny. And we just had like a slap happy moment in the office. We pretty much just laughed until we were like almost red in the face, teary eyed. And speaking of red, I appreciate you wearing the color red for this. I know you're a big UK guy,
Well,
and
I was actually going to wear
appreciate
Kentucky, a
that.
Kentucky
Yeah,
shirt,
I would have hung up. I would have hung
and
up
it's
right
all
there.
in the background. So
It
I was
even
going to
says
ask you
Cardinals
about
on
that
there. I'm
now.
gonna pretend that's Louisville, not Otterbein. I'm just gonna roll with it. But
It's
my man,
Audubon.
my man. But last time I belly laughed 100%, like a week ago. I'm all in on laughing, man. You know me. That's it's a good way to keep yourself going.
That's your personality.
Yeah, yeah, 100%.
So you just got hired as the director of basketball operations at Louisville. Congrats again. That's awesome. Um, if you want to go through like the main responsibilities you have as a director of basketball operations, and especially at a school like Louisville, how does your role change coming from Charleston
Yeah,
to
absolutely. And I think one of the big things, especially in the world of college basketball, that people don't fully understand is once you get from the head coach and maybe your 3 to 5 assistants, depending on what school you're at, pretty much every responsibility or job or role is whatever you make of it or whatever is assigned to you. So director of operations at Louisville might look way different than it does at, the Boston Celtics. It might look completely different. And for me, I think one of the best lessons I learned early on was it's really just about helping people, right? Like however I can be of a service to our players, our staff, anybody in the athletic department, really, it's just a matter of picking up wherever somebody left off with their work and helping them get through it. But as far as basic responsibilities, I mean, dealing with the budget, travel, organizational things as far as our week to week schedule, our month to month schedule, yearly schedule. I operate with Coach Kelsey in a lot of those areas as far as making sure that everything's buttoned up from official visits when they first come and see the campus to, June 2nd when they get to campus the first time, making sure their housing's correct, making sure their banking accounts correct so that when their money gets deposited, it goes straight to them. And really just helping student athletes live a life where they don't feel like, for a lot of people, you get to college and it's a great experience because you have to figure a lot of stuff out for yourself. And
right?
one of my gifts is I'm able to do that with our student athletes. And for a lot of them, it's the first eye-opening experience to something that causes, a lot of anxiety in the average life. And I think a small part of my job is, helping them operate in that gray space and find a sense of comfort in what we hope is their new home.
Right. What qualities do you believe are like essential in your role? What qualities do you think really help you strive in your role as director of basketball
Yeah.
operation?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think one of the things that I'm working on a ton right now is just being, you know, positive, perseverant. A lot of things get messed up. Like
Right.
you move so fast and there's so much going on and the pressure's so high and it's three, four, five, six things in a row. And the ability to just turn to the next page and keep pursuing to be excellent regardless of what happens, right? Like
Right.
just because you mess it up once and people don't notice every time. You can mess something up and the only person that'll ever know is you. But at a certain point, you have to make a decision whether or not you want to keep pursuing excellence and pushing yourself to get it right every single time because that's the standard you uphold yourself to. And I think that's a really hard part of the job. but I think that characteristic really goes far in this business. And the next part is just being sociable, being able to have conversations with people, look them eye to eye and say, I understand the experiences you're going through. I've been through similar, and being able to relate to people, I think is really, really important.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Just being relatable and, you know, like you said, these college athletes got a lot of stress and anxiety. Like they just need someone to make them laugh, like some you would do when you were coaching me. Like every day coming in, you would always say, "Hey, Doodle Bob," or something to make me laugh. So that's a good point. How has the transition been from Charleston to Louisville? I know you just got there, but what are some of the differences and the schools and the facilities, and is it kind of eye-opening being at a ACC level school and such a high major?
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, everything that they have here, all the resources that they have to offer, are second to none. And I think the unique thing about our program and who we are is Coach Kelsey's not going to change, right? The same standard that was at Charleston is going to be at Louisville, and the expectations are going to be the same. And people ask us all the time, kind of, how are you doing with the pressure of moving to Louisville? And it's pretty similar, to be honest. If you
Right.
don't win at Charleston, they're going to fire you anyway. So anywhere you go, there's a standard to uphold. And I think one of the beautiful things we do in this program is everybody's constantly working to reinforce that standard. And that's made the transition really easy. I'll say the hardest part in the transition was probably driving away from Charleston and seeing the last palm tree in the rear view.
Right. Yeah, that's gotta be tough.
Yeah, but I mean, the people here at Louisville have been so gracious and so welcoming to us that it's made it really, really easy um, in that aspect. But the basketball piece, we got a bunch of roster spots to fill over. We're being really aggressive in how we do things on that front, and I think it'll pay off in the long run. But a lot of legwork to do, and something our staff's done before at Charleston when we first got there. And in the new college basketball landscape, things turn over so fast. So there's a transition from year to year, and it kind of just feels like one of those transitions. It's been pretty easy. And then coming closer to home has been a huge help. I mean, my mom, dad, brothers, 90 minutes up the road is something that for me gives me a lot of peace. I know not everybody wants to be closer to their family, but
Right.
something that's really nice.
I was telling my dad today, I was like, I might have to go to a Louisville game, but that might be hard. Maybe if
You're
they
right.
play
You're
Kentucky,
red.
I'll go to that one.
Oh
Um,
man, we're gonna get you some Louisville gear. Don't worry.
I'll root for Louisville. Only for you. Only for you, Mitch. But um you said it's been kind of overwhelming just because of how big this, how changing from Charleston going to Louisville, just a different setting. How do you manage your own like mental well-being during this time, and what are some things that help you get through, these stressful times, new role, new school?
Yeah, absolutely. And I kind of referred to it as one of the things I think is important to have as a characteristic as in my job, but I think it's an important characteristic in any job, and it's the ability to connect with people. Um, in these situations, I really lean on others. Overwhelming is a good word for it. We're like, you're just spinning, you're moving so fast. I think by the time Coach Kelsey had announced that he was moving to Louisville and that I was going to go with him, I had packed up my house and moved in about 2 days.
Yeah, that's quick turnaround.
Quick turnaround. And the first place I went was to my mom and dad's, and found some comfort there, and that everything felt, you know, simple. Everything was back to the same way it is every time I go and visit them. And that helped in a major way. And then when I got to Louisville, just seeing the other staff members from Charleston and knowing that they're in the same hotel, they're doing the same things as me, they're fighting the same battles as far as, getting your rent paid in Charleston and here, and like going through all those little things, those little nuances of making the transition, and, just leaning into them for, a meal, just a couple minutes of fellowship, something like that goes a long way, especially um, when you're working really long days trying to get this thing right here. It's really easy to just go home, get in bed, go to sleep, and then you wake up the next day with no sense of gratification as far as what you're doing for yourself as a person. And I think a big part of that is, you're not having those human interactions that you need to have, and not having a social circle here is different for me. But I do have those people that I work with that I consider friends, family, and I lean on them a lot in these times.
Right. So being so close to the players, has any players in the past or even now, have they ever come to you and said, talked about their mental health or looked for you for advice, being a little bit older, um, has and what have you told these players if they have come to you about their mental health struggles?
Yeah, I think the biggest, common ground a lot of people in the athletics world have is a sense of inadequacy at times where, if you're making the transition from one school to another and you come in, it's a new system, and you just don't fit in right away, right? At the beginning of the season, we were 1-3. Our culture was still being built. We knew we were going to be good. We just didn't know how long it was going to be going to take. And I remember sitting in Myrtle Beach after we basically won what Coach Kelsey calls the toilet bowl. We lost our first two games and then won the losers game of the losers bracket to go to
Mhm.
1-3. And you're just sitting there like, what in the world is going on? Coach Kelsey told me all these things. He said we were going to be good. We're going to do all these things. And, you just don't feel that connectedness that you need to feel. And I think at that point, a lot of our guys had either a sense of inadequacy or a sense of, disbelief of what was going on. And, I had met with some players in those situations, said, keep the faith, patience. You're a really good player. That's why we brought you here. We're a really good team. We've been saying that. It's just a matter of being more connected, buying in, doubling down, right? And, you've played 4 games out of 33. It's not really the time to second guess yourself. But I think that's a great metaphor for life where you start on a new path and you're 2 weeks into a new job and you have imposter syndrome and you're thinking like, why am I here? What am I doing? And you start to either feel inadequate or just second guess what you're doing. And it makes it really hard to, see the bigger picture and also see what things you're working on, what you're improving on, and how you're shaping yourself up for success. And having somebody to help you kind of zoom in or zoom out, depending on the circumstances, is really important. And I think that's something that I can really help our players with because I don't always see things through the same lens as them. And just like I see it differently than them, they see it differently from me. And sometimes I go to them, right? Like I'm
Right.
a little of a scout and I feel overwhelmed and I'm just like, are you guys getting this message? Are you understanding what we're trying to do? And sometimes just having those conversations with other people and expressing how you feel is enough to get you back to center or get you grounded again. And I think that's something that we do a really good job of.
Right. And then after your 1-3 start, you went to the tournament. So
Yeah,
that all worked itself out in the end.
and you know what? That's kind of how it always goes, right? Like
Right.
do the work, put your head down, figure out what you're supposed to be doing, have a goal in mind, and just work towards it. And eventually it pays off. And if it doesn't, you're better off in the long run because you gave something everything that you had, and it shapes you.
Right. How does the high pressure environment of college sports impact the mental health of these student athletes from your perspective? I know I could chime in on this a lot because I played college basketball myself, but at the D3 level, I can't imagine playing in front of a crowd full of like 18,000 people. How do you think these pressures affect the players from your perspective?
It's a great question, and I'll be honest, I don't have a good answer. There's a million different emotions that overcome you in those situations, and the best I can say is, you go through a whole season, coming from the Coastal Conference, where you're playing in front of a sold out crowd of 6,000 in Charleston, and we
Mm.
sold out every single home game for our entire season. That still doesn't compare to playing in front of tens of thousands of fans in the NCAA tournament, and a lot of times what we tell our guys is you just got to have a reset mentality where we call every 4 minutes of a game a war.
Hmm.
And you got to be able to move on to the next war, right? We're trying to win each 4 minute segment, and compartmentalizing different parts of the game, I think, is really important. But at the same time, you have to have the ability to soak it in and enjoy it, right?
Right.
Like you're in the tunnel and you're watching Yale upset Auburn and you're just sitting there like, this place is so amazing. There's
Right.
tens of thousands of fans rooting from this underdog team. And they're pulling off something that is, a core memory for the rest of their life. And all you can think about is that you want it to be you, and you step out onto that court and it's your turn to play. And the first 8 minutes of the game disappear like that, right?
Mhm.
And savoring that moment, seeing your family right in the front rows, is kind of what we preach to our guys of, you deserve to be here. You've earned it, you've worked for it. Savor the moment and just take it all in because it's a moment that you're never going to get back. And It's something that some of these guys have been thinking about since they were 6, 7 years old. It's, 16 years in the making. You finally get to the place you want to be, and it feels like destiny. And unfortunately, we lost to Alabama in the first round, but man, it just the pressure, the pressure shouldn't outweigh the sense of gratitude you have for being there.
Right. How was going to the NCAA tournament 2 years in a row? That's something kids always dream of doing if they're a basketball player growing up, playing in March Madness in front of a crowd on national TV. How was that for you? Being there
Man,
2 years in a row, especially.
2 years for me, I don't know if there's a better feeling. I asked Coach Kelsey while we were standing on the court for our shoot around, what number is this for you, Coach? And does it feel the same? He said he tried to count them up, and he's like, I think this is number 15. And he's like, there's nothing like it. He's like, it still makes me, feel like a little kid when I hear that, like the March Madness jingle. He does the jingle. I'm not going to do it. I don't
Right.
know.
You don't want to try it?
No, I'll embarrass myself. And I'm not very good. I don't have good, but yeah, it's one of those feelings where you feel invincible to a degree, but also like astonished that you're in the situation. And it probably is different for somebody that has dreamed of playing, in a band in front of tens of thousands of people. I bet they wouldn't give two craps if they were on the March Madness court. And but for who I am and what I want to do for the rest of my life, I can't think of anything more fun than going back to March Madness. And that's really all I can think about. And
Right.
funny because you build up this whole season from, the pre-June segment where you're recruiting the team, meeting people, trying to make sure that they're a good fit for your culture. And then you have the June period, the July period, the August to September preseason, the October preseason, November to December non-conference, December to February conference play, and then conference tournament play. And finally, after 9 months of work, you get to play one game to see if it was, enough to get over the hump and win that first round game. And a definitely cool experience. And, until we win those games, and I don't know if it'll ever be enough. Coaches joke about it all the time that
Right.
winning the tournament doesn't satisfy that feeling, but I just want to go back to it, and I want to be in those situations every chance I get. And that's part of the reason, I keep myself in this situation and I stay with Coach Kelsey, and it's because I believe in his vision. I know that that's where we're going again. And that's really all I can ask for at my age and in my role. It's give me a chance to accomplish something I've been dreaming of as a kid.
Right. Now being at Louisville, where are some of the places you're most excited to go now that you're playing an elite level schedule? Duke's in your conference, North Carolina, all those big names. What venue are you most excited to go to?
First and foremost, the KFC Yum Center. I cannot wait to see 22,000 people in this place when we get it rolling in the right way. And not to sound crazy, I had Cameron Indoor, the Dean Dome, all that's great. I want to see the KFC Yum Center full of 22,000 people rallying behind this team, because I don't know if there's going to be anything that tops it.
Right. Well, that's a good answer. Smart answer.
Right?
Very good answer. You sure it's not Rupp Arena?
Man,
Because you guys are going there this year, right?
I think we do go to Rupp this year, but I'll get there when the time comes. All I know is November 4th when we get to tip that ball in the air. And man, I want to know what uniforms we're wearing. I want to know what polos the coaches are wearing, and I want to know what the final score is, and I want to know how those fans celebrate after the game.
That's a good answer, Mitch. I thought I could get Rupp Arena out of there.
No, sir. I will say I've played at the Dean Dome before. Iconic building, beautiful. But I don't know. The Yum Center for me, that's no brainer.
There you go. Louisville will pack that out. I was talking to my roommates the other day. I was hoping, or I wish that Pat Kelsey waited so Kentucky could hire him, because I really think he's a good coach.
I don't look good in blue anyway, so it's all good.
There you go. The next thing I got, how does your staff manage, talking about mental health to your players, and how is it pushed onto your program? And do you think you guys do a good job at it, or is there more room for improvement?
And that's a great question. And I think the beginning of this is we have incredible people. The people make up our program. And I think there's a confidant for everybody. Eli Foy, our director of strength and conditioning, sports performance, is, a confidant for all of our players. They rely on him constantly. He helps them far past the basketball, the strength training. But on top of that, Brian Cloman is one of the biggest hearts I've ever been around. I've needed him in several situations, and times he probably didn't even know I needed him. I leaned on him, and just the good nature of who he is carries you, right? Like, it's somebody that when you're in the dumps, you can literally just latch onto him, and he can take you the distance as far as, recouping yourself, getting to a place where you feel whole again. And another one is Jermaine Ukegbu. And I know Jermaine has helped countless players on our team as far as, whether it's a, a performance crisis, a self-image crisis. He does a lot of things rooted in faith. And I think, for everybody on our roster, there's somebody that they can confide in and go to. Thomas Carr, another guy that I've gotten to spend a lot of time with, Mike Cassidy. These are guys that I've spent the past 2 years with, and all the way down to my roommate, Braden Connor, our video coordinator. Really, the people I'm forgetting on our staff. It's every single person. And Coach Kelsey's unique in that he doesn't want to see coaches in the office, right? And that sounds counterproductive, but if we're in the office and we're staring at film in season, that means we're not spending time with our players. And
Right.
there's no secret that we challenge these dudes and we push them, to be great, because that's part of our job, is to hold them accountable to achieve what they're capable of. And, we push them to a certain point where it's hard, and it makes you feel a certain type of way. But at the end of the day, Coach Cloman can go from pushing you on the court for 2 hours to a point where you don't want to talk to him.
Mhm.
And then you go to the locker room and have food, and he's making you laugh to the point where you have to sit down. Otherwise, you're going to fall over.
Right.
And takes you out to lunch, or, takes you to go do something as far as play paintball, go on the boat, do whatever it is. And those relationships formed off the court, I think, are kind of the secret sauce as to why we can push people on the court. And, you asked what we can do more for mental health. And I think everybody can improve in this area, whether it's more discussions. Coach Kelsey's really, really open and honest about his own mental health. And I think that really helps our players see him for a human being. And college basketball has become a business. It is. It's a Fortune 500 company is what we just stepped into. And the human aspect gets lost a lot. And I think one of the important things we do is hone that back in, recenter ourselves. And Coach talks all the time about his faith, his family, and hoops. Those are the three things he counts on every single day. That's who Pat Kelsey is. And I think the simplicity behind living a life where you ground yourself, focus yourself, and then do something you're passionate about is an incredibly powerful message, and one that I hope our players hear. And even if they don't hear it while they're here and understand what the meaning is, at some point in the next 40 years of their life, that message hits home, because it's powerful, it's life-changing. And, we have a whole new group here, but we brought a couple players from Charleston with us. And I hope they can convey the feelings that we have for our players, and that we'll always be there for them. We'll care for them. Mental health is something that, affects you personally as far as off the court, but it affects you on the court too. And
Right.
you can, as a coach, a lot of times, exactly, you might not know what's going on, but you know exactly when it's happening, because you can see it in the way somebody performs, the way they carry themselves. And having those interpersonal relationships where you can sense those things early and, get to the root of it before it becomes a major problem is really important.
Right. I would say a lot of it has to do with culture, right? Having a strong foundation. Pat Kelsey does a great job, and your coaching staff. I always see videos online. He's always so happy, always hyped up. So culture is a big part, and making sure everyone's mental health is, top tier. How do you guys think your culture affects the players and, makes them feel good coming into practice or film or a game every day?
Yeah, there's complexities to that question, and the culture we have is unrelenting. It's the standard, and we preach culture. The first thing we'll do when our players get to campus is we'll sit down and we'll meet on our culture and define really clearly what makes us, Louisville basketball. And Coach Kelsey always says, Disney's chief goal is to make people happy. FedEx is to get it there. Louisville basketball is 25 strong, and that's counting on everybody in our organization, from student managers to myself as the director of operations, to Coach Kelsey as the head coach, to marketing, to academics, to whoever is in our circle. It's being able to count on them to do their job at the highest level. And as far as, mental health goes, that can be a challenge. It's something that pushes you, right? And on a given day where you might not feel your best, it's understanding that finding a way to perform and to hold yourself at that standard for the person next to you, right? And helping them along the way, even when you don't feel your best.
All right. I didn't realize the last part got cut out because I don't have Zoom Plus, and then my Wi-Fi cut out, so we got cut short. But the last 8 or so minutes, Mitch was explaining how culture was a big part of their program and how it helps a lot of their athletes' mental health and their well-being. He said 25 strong. I think he said it before it cut out, meaning players, coaches, everyone on staff being together, being one big family. And I really like that message because it's hard to get through stuff alone. It's hard to come out also, but having a good support group makes that a lot easier. Having coaches you can go to, having another teammate you can go to, it really makes a difference in, a D1 player especially, but any basketball player, it makes it so much easier, or any sports player, matter of fact, to get through whatever you're going through. And then we went on, I asked him what his favorite memory was while coaching, and he mentioned how when he first started coaching, he coached my 8th grade team. Yes, it was my 8th grade team, his first year of coaching, and then he got to follow my grade up to Turpin. He said his favorite memory was coaching his little brother freshman year and being able to build a relationship with him using basketball. And I thought that was a great answer. I've obviously known Mitch for a very long time, and it is an honor I was able to do this with him. He's seen me grow, I've seen him grow, and it's been really cool how far our relationship has come, even though he's at Louisville, which I'll cut him some slack for, but it's been awesome to watch him grow, and I hope we can continue to build our relationship. He's probably helped me so many times without even knowing. I remember one time in specific, I was going through my stuff, and me and him went to go lift. I think it was right before I was about to leave for college, or maybe that spring after my senior year. And he was asking me about the tattoo on my chest, making me laugh, saying it needs to expand when I get bigger and stronger. And, I had a lot of times like that where Mitch has helped me a lot, and he probably doesn't even know, like I said, and I give him a lot of thanks for that. So if you're watching this, Mitch, thank you, and I really appreciate you coming on. It was a good conversation. Sorry I got cut short. Maybe we can do another one in the future, but again, thank you to Mitch, and that wraps it up. Hopefully in the near future we'll have some more guests. It's kind of been a struggle, but we'll get it going. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and if you continue to watch the videos, thank you, and we'll see you on the next episode. Remember, life is grand, and we'll see you next time.